Welcome to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws, the podcast that cuts through the rubbish to explore the world of neurodiversity. I'm your host, Nic King.
And I'm your host, Kate Fox, and together we're here to explore, understand and celebrate being neurodivergent in a neurotypical world. From ADHD and autism to dyslexia and other quirky brains, we talk about it all.
And go off on tangents. So whether you're neurodivergent, love someone who is, or you're just curious about neurodivergent minds, you are in the right place.
Let's get ready to juggle some words and maybe even a few chainsaws, metaphorically, of course.
Welcome back to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws on the 13th of February, which is very almost the 14th of February, so we thought we'd talk about Valentine's Day. Kate Fox, where do you sit on Valentine's Day?
Well, without wishing to sound codependent, formally in relationships, that depends on who I've been with. And generally, I like the idea that there are nice things with hearts on in the shops. Hearts are good. This is as good as there being glittery things like at Christmas. And I like Valentine's chocolates. And I like that for some reason it's a big book publishing day, usually on or around Valentine's Day, which does not necessarily bespeak how I feel about the thing itself. How about you?
A book publishing thing. I am unbothered. I could take it, I could leave it. I feel like, I've been partnered forever. For a very, very long time. I don't know, something in the region of 17 years with this one. He's quite canny. I do like him. And yeah, I definitely think unbothered, but I think even early doors, slightly unbothered. I feel like the idea of a date that you have to do performative gift giving, acts of service, time, words of affirmation, physical touch.
Oh.
That's all the 5 love languages, isn't it? Get me.
Yeah.
All of them. Yeah, maybe I feel demand avoidant about that. I don't know. I feel oh. Like that. I think sort of idea of sort of performative measures is not for me. I need more smaller acts of service throughout the year. I need for just, yeah, I couldn't big sort of big presentations of anything for one day would just, it's not really my thing. It's not.
And I think that is very understandable. I feel like that is the case. I have to say it's probably an easier position to have as a is this true? As a woman in a long-term relationship, because I do think quite a lot of autistic blokes have a hard time with this because they seem to still, there's this social expectation. You're supposed to be the one making a grand gesture, making a thing happen, performing love and romance, where perhaps your thing would indeed be to go, hang on, well, that's just performative. That's not the real thing. And then they get into a lot of trouble for not being romantic. And I'm aware that's a massive generalization, but I certainly have seen that dynamic happen. Well, can I ask then, so this year, would you and Mark do anything? Would you exchange cards or gift or do a thing or just not do a thing?
No, probably just not do a thing. There might be a recognition that it's Valentine's Day, maybe 14th. Happy Valentine's Day, Hin. Have a cup of tea. That might be. That might be as far as it goes. I definitely wouldn't expect to receive presents. I definitely wouldn't expect to be doing any sort of exchange of gifts or cards or anything like that. And quite frankly, if it was a weekday, I wouldn't be expecting to change our routine or go out or have some sort of moment meal otherwise. And frankly, wouldn't it be like packed out there anyway?
Yes. Well, this is the thing. And this is, I mean, I've always, in any Valentine's situation, sort of taken it as read, and it has been taken as read. I think generally, of course, we won't go out for a meal tonight, because what could be worse than a packed restaurant full of couples in varying states of, I'm going to say, dysregulation quite often. So for some, I mean, there might be actual lovely romance, but and that might be quite soothing to be around. But quite often there's just, I don't know, ironically, given one of our previous podcast topics, awkward silence or a bit of resentment. And then certainly like loads of people thinking, flipping heck, it's expensive, this Valentine's special meal. Or people obviously, yeah, I mean, obviously the last place I'm going to go, it feels like, is a restaurant full of Valentine's couples. That's just a big no. However, some of those couples, I'm going to say, are probably actually following a Valentine's script in a way which is maybe quite positive. Like, I would usually see it as a negative thing, but for some, it might be like, oh, I am okay. So in order to demonstrate romance, I can, for example, buy a card, make a meal happen. This will show my effort. This is good. I didn't know how to do that. Like, so it probably can be good, maybe, for some people.
Possibly.
I
would definitely need it more than one. Like, if we're making meals and doing a romantic stretch, one out of 365 days isn't cutting it for me.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And actually, I generally yeah. See, in my marriage, I think we did Valentine's Day quite well. Didn't that we did the elements that we enjoyed? I liked that my then husband did, like, the first year we were together, he scattered nice sparkly, oh yeah, it's quite sensorily satisfying, sparkly hearts on the bed. Marks and Sparks, I have found excellent for Valentine's things. They do lovely, pretty chocolates and pretty things that are.
I think they're actually slightly rude this year, Kate, if you go have a look. This is not
really?
I feel like there's a chocolate fruit. Might be a banana, might be an aubergine. It's definitely phallic.
This isn't what we want from
Sorry, Kate, romance is dead.
The nation's parent in retail, formerly St. Michael's. And actually, that's a good point, because there is so it's interesting, yeah. There's a potentially obviously you could separate it out, sexual element. So it could be a time for people to focus on doing things they might not otherwise do, I suppose. I'm trying to be positive,
What are we talking about here? Is this where we're going?
Oh yeah, well, maybe that could be one thing, exactly. That kind of, well, yes. Or, those little games where they're like, have a love conversation. And so it could be that some neurodivergent people have conversations they've struggled to previously have. Maybe. There was one year where I was with someone who I had kind of assumed did not celebrate Valentine's Day, although I hadn't actually asked them about it. And I sort of made a decision. So this was post unmasking for me. I was like, actually, there's quite a lot about Valentine's Day I like. There's quite a lot about romance I like. I'm going to give them those things without any expectation of return, because I think expectations are problematic and difficult in all sorts of ways. So I had, and I didn't go over the top, but I did, do quite playful things and gifty things, and genuinely held, and it was indeed not, I mean, it was entered into and received well, and I didn't get Valentine's stuff in return, and I was totally fine like that. And it sort of became, I don't know, maybe that was my best Valentine's Day in a way. I got to do what I want to do, and it happened to be giving in quite a naff way, I think, as in
cheesy.
Chocolate hearts and cheesy, that's it, cheesy. And again, some people do not like a cheesy aesthetic, do they?
I was thinking, because obviously it's a commercialized holiday, as it were. I mean, it does have origins in sort of Roman festivals and Christian feast days, and then somewhere along the lines, possibly in the 1700s-ish, we started getting into like cards and romantic letters and the ideas of romantic gestures in a different kind of way, away from sort of a royal class and court and things. Anyway, and I was sort of thinking, why am I on board with some commercial holidays? So I'm on board with, we know Nick loves the Halloween. I'm on board with the commercialization of Halloween. Why am I not quite on board with the commercialization of sort of like romantic love? Probably feelings. Ugh, feelings are overrated, right?
Good. Well, this is an excellent point, isn't it? So, loads of neurodivergent people are alexithymic and may struggle to process or connect with their feelings. Also, romantic feelings, specifically, like, I mean, what many of us are demisexual for starters, which means that we, again, demisexual. In summary, romance may or may not be a thing, an easy thing, or it might need to be connected only to a specific person in a specific way.
You have to have a built and trusting relationship with somebody before you find them sexually attractive. There you go. Does that help, Kate?
Thank you. That's to summary than whatever I was grasping at there. And of course, romance, when we're getting into it, flipping heck, romance can be very dysregulating and overwhelming. Limerence, which is basically a massive kind of focus on another person as an object of overwhelming obsessive feelings, which is kind of culturally encouraged. Like, oh, look, this is true love if you have this. But actually, it can be not necessarily a great basis for a positive life partnership and stable self-base. Oh dear. Oh, well, we're just again, I think someone should make a Valentine's card saying that. Limerence definition. Brackets. I do not feel this for you because this would not be a stable base for our relationship. Do you know, that's exactly the sort of thing I would do. I would
tolerate you more than other people.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for co-regulating with me, brackets, sometimes in silence. I haven't had enough of that in my life, kiss. Yes. Oh, you see, our range of neurodivergent Valentine's cards going to go down as... Actually, that must be a thing. Is it a thing? It's probably a thing. I know
there is probably a thing somewhere.
It will be a thing.
I'm sure there's somebody on SD doing that somewhere.
And actually, I am just remember. I mean, it would always have been taken as read for me. Generally, actually, my ex-husband was quite kind of sentimental in a way, like far more than I was. But I would be surprised if I found that someone I was in a relationship with who knew me would do something like get a big card that had a embroidered heart on that said "to the one I love" and then didn't have their own words in it. In fact, I would be, not just surprised, but mildly appalled and repulsed, actually. Oh, yeah. Hang on. I'm tapping in a bit to my earlier Valentine self. That did happen. Oh, God. And when I was at school, oh, bless him. I'm not going to say his name. Oh, no, I'm going to give him a pseudonym. Yeah. Bob Brown. Right.
That's the best you had. Bob Brown. Kate Fox, poet, writer, Bob Brown.
Yes.
Carry on.
Bob Brown. So I was 14 and I'd not kissed any boys. I mean, girls were available, but it did feel like it was probably going to be boys, but not boys, actually. It was going to be men. Anyway, so yeah. And this card came to me and it had, oh God, oh, this is such a visceral memory. Okay, right. He had made a big heart out of kisses in the card. So it's like, so at least there was artwork there.
Okay.
And written, I love you. You don't know how much. Oh, I can feel the visceral. Oh, you.
Is Bob Brown 14? Poor Bob
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. Bob Brown was experiencing quite a lot of limerence, I think. Poor Bob. No wonder he liked me, probably at some level it was a bit like, oh shit. Anyway. Now, bear in mind, I grew up in a house. I'm alexithymic. I'm in a house where no one is overburdened with feelings or demonstrating them in any way. This was a lot. And I probably was a horrible, horrible 14-year-old girl. I would like to think that I would have, discreetly kept this to myself. It must have come down the school jungle grapevine thing, who the cat was from, because of course Valentine's Day anonymity brackets another problematic thing for autistic people. Actually, anonymity. Who is this from? Who? Anyway, it came down to me that it was Bob Brown, and I don't think my reaction was graceful or kind, and he's probably. I hope Bob Brown is like happily partnered now with someone who fully appreciates his romantic nature.
Love what you're hearing? Want to interact with us? Want to show your support? You can do all of that via our website, Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws, where you can leave us a comment, you can send us an email, or you can leave a little tip via our PayPal link. And we appreciate all your interaction, support, and love.
Oh, I'd forgotten that, honestly. Oof.
I don't even care. Yeah, okay. So definitely not standardized greeting cards for Kate.
No.
Questionably expressive lung languages in them. Definitely far too vague and anonymized. Bless him.
No, bless. I'm actually. Oh God, like that was a very vulnerable thing to do, wasn't it? But unfortunately, he was doing it to me at that point in my life. I mean, if he did it now, we wouldn't get a better reaction, to be fair. Oof.
Oof.
Well, no, he'd get a kinder reaction. Well, no, I'd just find it
but would he?
Stalkery now. Oh, go on.
But would he? Yeah.
Would he? No.
But would he?
No. If we were together, but again, oh dear. Anyway, it turns out, in summary, it's not a neutral thing, is it? Valentine's Day for anybody, actually, potentially.
And how much does sort of our neurodivergence in our community come into it? Because there are a bunch of potentially neurotypical people out there going, we'll do that. We do X, we do Y, we do Z. And like they're not thinking to the depths of the analysis of poor Bob Brown's card. I'm not even going to say how many years later that is.
35. Is it 35? Oh my God, that was 35. No, hang on. Yes, 35 years ago.
So the depths are there. And maybe because we do have, as neurodivergent people, we are very unlikely to be sort of cis het. There is always going to be, some sort of demisexuality there, potentially sort of queerness, LGBTQIA+, and we live within different demographics and different communities as neurodivergent people who have had very different societal ways of expressing romantic affection. So, if we're talking about that sort of that commercialization of it in the 1700s, that wasn't people in the neurodivergent community because we were still off being institutionalized. It wasn't people who are queer in the main, depending on which point of history you hit, because it was illegal. We haven't been expressing love, affection, and romantic ideas within these neurotypical standards, and maybe actually fundamentally that's that sort of that surface level of going off to buy a Valentine's Day card, going off to buy the plastic rose, going off to buy, whatever questionable chocolate Marks and Spencer's might be stocking at the time. Is it just a bit surface level for who we are and how we interact within our relationships? Because do we just do a bit more deep diving and deep thinking and self-reflection, and does that just fundamentally not align with that sort of that commercialization of romantic gestures?
Well, what it speaks of to me is that actually, ideally, maybe people can adapt those rituals and performances and make them personal. And actually, I know for a lot of people that will definitely involve saying, oh, well, why should I be told when to do my love ritual? Definitely understand that. Although for some other people, it's helpful to have, oh, here is a designated time to think about what your expressions of love or romance or sexuality might be in this particular moment.
What is your love language? What do you like? I like an act of service. I'll give you a second to think about it. So acts of service are definitely sort of within me, physical gestures. So like making sort of drinks, making cups of tea, making meals. Generally, I have an incredibly busy household. We both work full time. And that sort of that just constant consideration of what things need done, and making sure they definitely don't all fall towards my end of the workload. Um, Quality time. I need time with people. And we're back to talking about that co-regulation that we talked about in another episode. It doesn't have to necessarily be interactive. It doesn't necessarily have to be doing things, but I need time. Not fussed about gifts. Physical touch is definitely only a fortnight in a month and definitely not the other fortnight. Don't touch me. I mean, words of affirmation are kind of fine. Every now and again. Less bothered. Low down the list.
Yeah, no, in fact, you looked positively like, yeah, words of affirmation.
Yeah. Wordy words.
This is it. Okay. Well, my first would be physical. The physical touch would be primary and very high, actually. And again, this is returning to my contention that maybe that the verbal isn't my first language. And then, I mean, if essentially there was a variety of types of touch all day on Valentine's Day, so that'd be me very happy. Next would be words of affirmation, very strongly. And then yeah, acts of service. The primary act of service for me that anyone could do is make me a cup of tea. That's been on my dating profiles in the past, actually, where people then respond with, how do you like your tea? That is like the best response. So actually making me a cup of tea, in fact, is second above words of affirmation, but then other acts of service. And then what's the other ones? Gift giving. Sure, I'd happily not have another gift again in my life, to be honest, really. Although, apart from that, it's a nice thing, but
yeah.
And isn't there a fifth one that I've missed out that must be very unimportant to me? What is that one?
Quality time.
Oh, quality time. Quality time also leave me alone. Quality time and quality not time. Thank you.
We need a very quality amount of quality time. And
exactly. Although possibly
quantified.
Yes. Although possibly people who I've been in relationships with would be a bit surprised by that. Would be like, "What? Really? Are you sure? why did you ever protest that?" But no, I think nowadays an unmasked me. Yeah. Although of course, obviously, I've within reason. But yes. Yeah. Oh, so our love languages are in very different orders. And again, like, do you know, if someone, no matter what their relationship style or setup was, and it would be harder if they're polyamorous because, they'll have to do this with multiple partners, possibly spread it across a week, Valentine's week. But perhaps the single best thing someone could do, if they haven't already done it, together with their loved ones, is talk about their love languages, actually.
What you want, what you need, how you want to communicate. I mean, talking of polyamory before, like, you know, that I would want to say that the five love languages did absolutely come out of, I believe, a Christian minister looking at very white heterosexual couples, and there is a limitation. We are discussing it for funsies.
Not actual science.
Not that you should be building your relationship on 5 different types of like love language. However, yeah, I don't know. I can't be on board. I can't be on board with Valentine's Day, really, apparently. But I do think it's important to be aligned, isn't it, with your romantic partner? Because Kate and her very specified and quantified quality time that is definitely silence.
Yeah, well, it's not, and of course, actually, but this goes for all neurodivergent needs. In fact, as long as it's possible to communicate them and have them heard, understood, validated, it kind of, I mean, it does matter to some degree if they're not aligned, and probably you and I, Nick, I mean, it sounds like our love languages are. I wouldn't massively root for us as a compatible romantic couple there, really. Like that does all sound a bit mismatched. But I was going to say, you know, just because your love languages are different and are in a different order doesn't in any way mean, and this is the thing, this is the insidious thing of Valentine's Day. It can seem to give the message that you have to have a perfect romantic alignment that is expressed in a particular way. And actually, no.
But Disney can go and shove.
Yeah, exactly. Life is far messier than that. But the thing that helps to overcome and mitigate that messiness, those misalignments, those mismatches, is communication and trust built up over time. There is no substitute for that, not even a sparkly Marks and Sparks chocolate bubble bath prophylactic. I don't mean prophylactic, do I? What's that?
I don't think you mean prophylactic.
A thing. Anyway, some sort of sex thing. Anyway, that none of the, you know, nothing's better than communication. Although if someone wanted to just like cuddle me sensually on a bed, anyway, it's not going to happen. Totally single.
If you wanted to bring a date to our show on the 6th of March and ask leading questions so we can discuss different things that you need in your relationship and your different needs.
That's a very good. Now that, you know, booking
a good idea for a date.
Your date, yeah.
Booking it won't be the 14th of February. It'll be the 6th of March.
Yeah.
And you could tell her. You could write in and tell her. Like, send a photo, point it out. It won't be awkward at all. We can go through all your needs and discuss it. We can give you like a training guide.
Oh, a teaching and learning moment all together in the public. What better thing could there be?
What could go wrong? Especially with me in charge. It'll be fine.
Totally fine. So on that note, happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
Valentine's Day.
Thanks for tuning in to Neurotypicals Don't Juggle Chainsaws. We're so glad you joined us today to explore the fascinating world of neurodivergence with your hosts, me, Nic King.
And me, Kate Fox. If our conversation sparked a thought, a question, or even a smile, don't keep it to yourself. Drop us a line at hello@neurotypicalsdon'tjugglechainsaws.co.uk or visit our website, neurotypicalsdon'tjugglechainsaws.co.uk, to write in. We'd love to hear from you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, consider leaving us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast platform.
Until next time, keep embracing the unique ways you juggle the chainsaws of life.